Kia ora, Tefano. Really short video today showing you how to do something a little bit advanced in Python Arcade. What I want to do is I want to use the tiled map editor to add in animated sprites. It's something that it can do, and I want to see if we can get that to work today. What you'll see here is I've got my map, and on my map I have these enemies, and these enemies are already animated. And how you can do that is if you come over to your tile sheet, you can grab an animation. Let's say this walking one over here. This walking one over here. And I'm going to click this button, which is a tile animation editor. And from there, I can create myself a new animation. And so I'm going to grab, looks like this frame, this frame, this frame, and I'm just going to load up what I think is the right frames. Of course, when you do this, these will be sprites that you have drawn yourself. We're just using our robot friend here as a demo. The default for the frame duration is 100 milliseconds, but you can change that to be whatever you would like. I think that's a pretty good animation, so I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to close that. And you'll see it's popped up and it's got this little movie strip along the bottom. That means that this is an animated sprite. Cool. I'm going to come back here and onto my enemies layer. I am going to stick a robot on. I'm just going to add one here. In fact, I'm going to add 3 here. Now you will see with my previous ones that I've added, I have given them 2 custom properties, a left boundary and a right boundary. So let me add that onto these guys and we'll find out where their boundary should be. He's a little bit high. Come back down, matey. There we go. So here I come down and I click here and I'm going to go left boundary, and that's going to be an integer, and I go okay. And right boundary as well. Oh, you have to spell it right. If you make a mistake here, it is very hard to debug. Here, I'm just going to move my mouse, check out down the corner down here, the coordinates are going to turn up. And so my left boundary, no, this is going to be my right boundary, which is going to be about 892. I'm just going to whack that in here. And my right boundary is going to be edge of the sign, which, left boundary, sorry, 257. Now, you don't want to watch me do that a second time, but you believe that I could, so I'm going to delete him. He is not going to go as far as him, but that's okay. Right. I'm going to save both my map and my TSX. Okay, how do I deal with this in code? Let's go over to my code. Now, looking down here, when I load my map in my setup function of my game, you'll see over here that I've got layer options. Now, in my layer options, in my enemies layer, I have a custom class called an enemy, and I'm just giving that custom class straight as the class itself. This is how layer options is laid out, and I might just make it a bit bigger so you guys can definitely see it. This is how layer options is laid out. It is a dictionary with layers, layer names, and a dictionary for each layer. Right. I then pass that to the arcade.load tile map, and you know that's loading up my level, which is fine. But I'm also passing layer options equals layer options, so these are being passed to the tile map loader, and it's going to handle everything for us, including the animations, which is so good. It's a little bit of work to get it set up right, but it's so good. Okay. Here is my enemy class. Now my enemy class isn't inheriting from sprite, from arcade.sprite. Instead, it's inheriting from animated time-based sprite. And if we take a look at that class, it says sprite for platformer games that supports animations. These can be automatically created by the tile map editor. Yes, success. Sweet. When I start them off, I have a constant called enemy speed, and they're going to walk to the right at enemy speed. I also have flipped frames and unflipped frames. This is the hardest part that I had doing this. When you load in those animations, they have a direction, but we want our enemies to turn around. If your enemy was stationary and just say it was standing in place and firing a projectile or just swiping in place, and you didn't want it to move, that is way easier. But because we've got ours to move, we want ours to patrol back and forth. We want them to flip around, and so we need to do a little bit of extra legwork to get those frames we've already loaded in flipped and heading the other direction. So how do we do that? Unfortunately, we can't do it where we would want to do it, which is in the init function. We can't do it here. Those frames aren't loaded in yet. So what we're going to do is in the update function, we're going to say, hey, just check. Check if we haven't done this yet. Check if we haven't flipped those frames yet. If we haven't, can you go and do that work, please? And I've written a little function here called load flipped images. I'm passing it self.frames, which is something we get for free from an animated time-based sprite. We get that for free. And I'm taking that list of frames, flipping them individually, returning a new list. Let's take a look at that function now. It's all the way up the top. I'm taking the list of frames that already exists. I'm making a new empty list. I'm going through each frame, and then I am flipping. You have to do a little bit of cleaning on the file name. I don't know why that is the case, but you do. Here is my solution to that. I'm pretty sure there is a cleaner solution. If you can find it, fantastic. This was my solution for the moment. There's extra information given in that file name for Arcade, but you've got to clean it up. And then we're loading a new animation keyframe, which is what those frames were. They have an ID, they have a duration, and they have a texture. And here is the secret sauce. We load up a new texture with that same file name, and it's flipped horizontally. Excellent. Okay. And then we add that to a new list, to the list that we started up here, and then we return that list. So we've got the same list with each of the images flipped individually. Wonderful. Where were we? Looking through this class. Wonderful. Now that they're animated, we just say, hey, look, if he's moved past that right boundary, we turn it around. And if he's moved past that left boundary, turn him around and start him going the other way. Now, when we add custom properties to our enemies, like we did, we added the custom properties, left boundary and right boundary, they turn up in a dictionary called self.properties. This is only when we use custom properties and we use the tiled map editor to load in those sprites. So they exist for us already in this dictionary, and we can just access them like this with the square brackets and indexing like a normal dictionary. And we're away. And then when we update animation, we just check, hey, are we traveling left or are we traveling right? Can you flip the animation for us, please? And it looks like this. That's it. Tiled map editor we make an animation using the animation tile animation editor. We add them to our maps on the enemies list, and we add custom properties, a left boundary and a right boundary, and they're already animated for us, which is fantastic. We load them in using layer options, a custom class, and we pass that to the load tile map function. And in our custom class, we need to flip those frames using this load flipped images function that we've written. The code for that is there, and then the code for that is there. And that's the bell, and I think that's the end of this video. So, ka kite popo. We will see you later.